Red, as being our physical reporter, Pablo Viñal is now. Hi, Pablo. So how's the government trying to frame these major events? He says he wants a clear picture of what happens against preventing. Not the greatest start to the season. It's a trip.
I am again thankful to all news media outlets for letting me use their contents. I greatly appreciate that. I am available 24/7 if they need any assistance. Now go to the headlines. Hi and very warm welcome at Amir Shackle, 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Following news headlines have been reported by world major English news channels and news agencies. So please watch it.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News.
Good evening, I'm Maurice Dubois.
I'm John Dickerson.
We begin tonight with a mystery.
The mystery of autism, the developmental condition that can affect the ability to communicate and interact socially.
We're beginning with it because the CDC is reporting a sharp rise in the number of children who have it, more than 3% of 8-year-olds.
And because today, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., called the rate of autism alarming and ordered up studies to determine the cause by September, something scientists have been working on for decades.
There are clues, but no conclusions. We're joined now by CBS News medical contributor Dr. Celine Gounder. Celine.
In his first press conference as secretary, Kennedy vowed to come to an understanding of the causes of autism. Autism is complicated. It impacts the brain of both children and adults, and decades of research has not found a single cause.
The ASD prevalence rate in 8-year-olds is now 1 in 31. Shocking.
Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. pointed to new evidence that the U.S. is seeing, in his words, a growing epidemic of autism.
The epidemic is real.
CDC data shows 1 out of 31 children has been identified with autism. The previous report 2 years earlier found a rate of 1 in 36.
If the epidemic...
Tonight, the new escalation in President Trump's deportation standoff with the courts, the arrests and takedowns happening across the country. But has the White House's tactics gone too far? A judge saying the Trump administration crossed a major legal line when it sent those flights to El Salvador, finding probable cause to hold Trump officials in contempt of court. Plus, the new reporting tonight on that undocumented father deported from Maryland to El Salvador. The documents the Trump administration say show he was a gang member. Disturbing new video of the shooting inside a Dallas high school as it happens. A teenage suspect now behind bars. What we're learning about how the gun got inside. The nation's top health official speaking out on autism. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. contradicting a new CDC report about the cause behind the rise in rates, suggesting environmental toxins may be to blame. Is now the best time to buy a car? How tariffs could soon be driving up the cost at dealerships nationwide. Our Tom Costello out on the lot asking about the best deals amid shrinking inventories. The new pill that could help your dog live longer. We're inside the clinic testing the longevity drug that could give your dog more good years.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt. Is the U.S. Attorney General. Pam Bondi is with us. Pam, great to see you. I want to put up on the screen a timeline because there seems to be, in the media especially, a narrative that is completely and totally and utterly false regarding, quote, Mr. Garcia. And not one but 2 courts actually said he was an MS-13 gang member and identified him as such. Can you please explain what you know about him?
Yes, Sean, factually, this is an extremely disturbing case. And as a career prosecutor, it is even more disturbing. Every American tonight should be thanking Donald Trump for making America safer by getting this guy out of our country. I'm going to call him a terrorist because he has been designated as a member of a terrorist organization. So this illegal alien terrorist came into our country illegally in March of 2012. We know that because he admitted that when he was stopped in 2019 by the anti-gang squad. They stopped him at a Home Depot with 3 other members. And here's what's very important. He was wearing a sweatshirt with gang insignia on it. The guy he was with, another MS-13 known member, had a tattoo with very similar insignia on it. ICE declared him as a member of MS-13. The police officers, the gang unit, declared him as a member of MS-13, and also they independently went to a reliable, confidential informant who said not only is he a member of MS-13, he gave them the clique, the Westerns, and he was called a Chicao, which is one of the higher-ranking MS-13 members. So they rightfully detained him, rightfully. An immigration judge agreed. An appellate immigration judge agreed. Now here's where it gets even more frightening. In 2021, his girlfriend previously, his wife at the time, who he had married in jail after he'd gotten numerous tickets, didn't show up for court. He marries her in jail. She has a baby with him. And as a career domestic violence prosecutor too, I know it takes a lot for any woman to come into court and say they're a victim of domestic violence.
Tonight, a federal judge threatens the Trump administration with contempt of court. The stock market nosedive after the alarming warning from the Fed, sending the Dow plunging nearly 700 points. And the midair scare for passengers resulting in a hard landing and a damaged plane. First, the federal judge blasting the Trump administration, finding probable cause for contempt of court after they sent more than 200 immigrants to a notorious prison in El Salvador, despite his orders to turn the planes around. This with the White House under mounting pressure to return a Maryland husband and father who was sent to that prison by mistake. Attorney General Pam Bondi saying Kilmar Abrego Garcia will not be coming back to our country. Rachel Scott reports from the White House. Also tonight, the Fed Chair stark warning about President Trump's sweeping tariff policy, how it could reignite inflation in the U.S. The Dow, NASDAQ, and S&P 500 all posting big losses. Chilling new images of the high school shooting in Dallas, the gunman firing at random, at least 4 students wounded, what the video shows, and what police are now saying about how a gun got into the school undetected. Frightening moments on board a Frontier Airlines flight from Orlando to San Juan. Passengers scared by what they saw out the window. The plane making a hard landing, then had to land again. The Pentagon's sweeping leak investigation. Multiple top aides to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth suspended over the last 24 hours. All of this comes just weeks after Hegseth revealed details of the U.S. attack on Yemen in a Signal group chat. Martha Raddatz is standing by in Washington. New details into the alleged motive behind the arson attack targeting Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Authorities say the suspect called 911 less than an hour after firebombing the governor's mansion, identifying himself, what he did, and why he did it. A chaotic scene at a shopping mall, a bear sprinting through the parking lot, some shoppers jumping out of the way. For the first time since it was discovered 100 years ago, scientists reporting images of a colossal squid in its natural habitat. And Time 100, the most influential people of 2025, from Demi Moore to Serena Williams to Snoop Dogg. And one name on the list we're especially proud of.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News.
On this Wednesday, the first federal debate in Montreal. 4 leaders face off in French. Why one party was disinvited. Canada's economic uncertainty, how the trade war has affected consumer spending.
Banks right now are pretty desperate for business.
And where interest rates are likely headed. Feeling ignored.
Look at the people who are falling through the cracks.
The calls for political parties to put a stronger focus on eliminating poverty. And an exciting chapter in history kicks off. But it's about more than sport. The first matchup of Canada's only professional women's soccer league. Good evening and thanks for joining us. The first of 2 leaders' debates in the federal election campaign has just wrapped up. This one was in French. It is the first time Canadians saw the party leaders face off. The Green Party was not part of it. This morning the Greens were told by the debate commission they were no longer invited because they didn't meet the criteria. The party calls that undemocratic. The commission says the Green Party originally met the criteria, then dropped 15 candidates and fell below the threshold needed. Mackenzie Gray is covering the French debate for us tonight.
Message important. Go Abs go! A cheer for the local team whose final regular season game pushed the French leaders' debate up 2 hours. And it was the self-professed hockey fanatic Mark Carney who was quickly body checked.
Vous êtes le conseiller économique à Justin Trudeau. Est-ce que vous niez ça?
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre repeatedly tried to tie Carney to Justin Trudeau.
Les mêmes promesses électorales que Justin Trudeau répète depuis 10 ans.
Polyev attacking Carney with a softer edge.
This wacko policy by this wacko prime minister.
Compared to the parliamentary pit bull that's been Polyev's signature for the past 20 years, a style that might not play well in Quebec.
But it needs to be a balance. I mean, obviously they're going to attack, but they have to be careful when they're going to attack Mr. Carney.
Please here avec Mr. Trump.
Monsieur Poilier,
The first portion.
The radio and ABC iView. Today, Anthony Albanese and Peter Dutton target key seats following last night's ABC leaders' debate. A teenager behind bars in Sydney, accused of trying to recruit people to commit contract killings overseas. A US judge says officials could be held in criminal contempt over the White House's deportations to Venezuela. And millions on the move, airports brace for the busiest day of the year ahead of the Easter long weekend. Hello, welcome to ABC News. I'm Selena Edmonds. The Prime Minister and Opposition Leader are back on the road after last night's leaders' debate on the ABC. Peter Dutton has visited a technical school to promote his new skills initiative, where he was pressed by reporters on his plans for tax reform. Reporter Tom Crowley is travelling with the Liberal leader.
A skills masterclass for Peter Dutton at the Hunter Technical College here in the seat of Patterson, one of several in the Hunter Valley that the Coalition believes it can win off Labor. And this is one of the few remaining technical colleges from the era of the Howard government. Received government funding back then, cut by the Rudd government. A Dutton government would restore it. Peter Dutton toured the grounds, learning how to twist wires and turn in bolts. And then it turned to the press conference, the wash-up from last night's debate, and from an interview this morning in the Australian newspaper where Peter Dutton said,
Of the GB News family.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
that's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. An historic day for women.
The Supreme Court rules that a woman in UK law is down to their biological sex.
The unanimous decision of this court is that the terms woman and sex in the Equality Act 2010 refer to a biological woman and biological sex.
Well, earlier we spoke to the Health Minister, Karen Smith.
What we've seen from the Supreme Court yesterday in this long judgment, which obviously will need to be now carefully considered by government, is giving clarity to the effect of the Equality Act in 2010.
Well, the ruling means organisations are now scrambling to shift policy as the trans community deem the decision a huge disappointment.
Energy Secretary Ed Miliband injects an additional £2.7 billion into the nuclear energy plant Sizewell C, but critics fear it's over budget and years behind schedule. So just how much will it cost us?
Churches are under attack in the UK, with 9,000 crimes reported over the last 3 years.
Need everybody to stand together on this. It doesn't matter if you're a person of faith or not.
The Royals at Easter. The King highlights the importance of faith, hope and love across all religions in his Easter message ahead of the Maundy Thursday service.
Scientists detect possible signs of alien life 120 light years from Earth in what's being hailed as potentially a transformative moment.
For a Bezos rather than a bozo.
Tensions are higher. Success is a long shot.
This is where the schnitzel really hits the fan.
You're fired. Apprentice star Mia Collins will be joining us in the studio ahead of the much anticipated Apprentice final.
And sport this morning, well, no sign of the remontada. Real Madrid promised disaster to brush them aside, head to the Champions League semi-finals for the first time in 16 years. Europa League tonight, it's Spurs, Manchester United and Rangers all currently level in their ties. And in climbing news, oh no, not just sport, it's pastimes also. A new world record has been set in the Alps.
Many spells and a few showers for many of us today. Through Good Friday, though, a wetter start to the long weekend across western parts, heavy rain and some strong winds. I'll have the details coming up.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Millie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Africa News. The news.
An American pastor was kidnapped last week by armed and masked men during a sermon in the Eastern Cape province of South Africa was rescued on Tuesday.
We can now confirm the safe recovery of a 45-year-old American national victim who happened to be a local pastor. The victim, who had been allegedly kidnapped in Komataki location in Kabeja, was safely reunited with his family in the early hours of this morning.
3 of the abductors were engaged in a gun battle with police officers in South Africa and were later killed.
The team observed the vehicle on the premises, then the suspects inside the vehicle. Upon seeing the police, they allegedly probably panicked and attempted to flee and opened the fire towards the police. Then the team tactically responded and managed to neutralize the suspect. And the 3 of those suspects were fatally wounded.
The 45-year-old American citizen was known as Joe Sullivan.
He has fought Sudan's armed forces for 2 years. Now, General Mohammed Hamdan Daglo, commander of the paramilitary rapid support forces, has announced that he would establish a rival government. The RSF leader made the announcement on a 2-year anniversary of the start of civil war in Sudan on 15th of April 2023. The RSF, which has been joined by other armed movements, will mostly control southwestern parts of the country, including the Western Darfur region. According to the UN, recent attacks by the paramilitary forces in Darfur have killed over 400 people. While the group has suffered multiple battlefield setbacks, including losing the capital, Khartoum, and other cities in recent months, the announcement has raised concerns among experts that Sudan is heading towards partition or a prolonged conflict like in neighboring Libya.
A Senegalese lawmaker has formally proposed the indictment of former President Macky Sall for high treason. The move follows revelations from the Court of Auditors alleging serious financial misconduct during Sall's presidency between 2019 and 2023. The report points to forged documents, embezzlement, money laundering, and illicit enrichment, while current Justice Minister Ousmane Dieng confirmed that only financial crimes are under investigation for now. It did not rule out future high treason charges if sufficient evidence arises. Under Senegal's constitution, former presidents can only be prosecuted for high treason, which requires parliamentary approval and trial before High Court of Justice. This proposal echoes earlier demands from civil society and opposition groups who have long called for accountability. Dozens of indigenous leaders and environmental activists gathered outside Brazil's Itamaraty Palace in Brasilia, calling for bold climate action ahead of COP30, set to take place in Belém this November. In symbolic act, they scattered ashes from Amazon forest fires to demand an end to fossil fuel dependence and advocate for a just energy transition. This banner, this cry, represents a global call to Brazil. For years, we've been seen as a leader in relatively clean and renewable energy like hydropower. Now, with COP30 on the horizon, we have a unique opportunity to lead by example and drive this urgent energy transition forward. The demonstration features voices from across the globe, including Portia Adumensa, national coordinator of 350 Ghana Reducing Carbon.
We are coming to the Amazons. We are going to see the realities of communities, and we are praying that we are looking forward to that impact, that transitioning, that being in this COP at the Amazon can send a very strong message that community matters, and we need to put community women at the front line for a just energy transition.
The event highlighted solidarity among climate defenders, with representatives from countries like Ghana and Papua New Guinea uniting to amplify the demand for climate justice on the road to COP30.
Andre Onana will return in goal for Manchester United's crucial Europa League clash against Lyon on Thursday after being drawn for a 4-1 Premier League loss to Newcastle. His omission followed error in last week's 2-2 quarter-final first leg against Lyon, where former United midfielder demanded Matich labelled him one of the worst goalkeepers in history.
He's going to be really good tomorrow, I'm sure of that. But if it's the other way, people will say that it was a bad decision. So we never know. I'm trying to be clear on things and try to make the evaluation be really simple, not overthinking. And when I imagine the game and I see Andre Onana, he had 1 weekend that he rest. Now he's ready to return to the competition, and I chose Andre to start this game.
Manchester United is keen to win the Europa League to secure qualification for next season's Champions League. Lyon will be looking to take advantage of Manchester United's stuttering form and increase the pressure on head coach Ruben Amorim when the two club meet in the second leg of the Europa League quarter-final tie.
This is is Asia Now.
It's 2 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 11:30 in New Delhi, and 1 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Paul Sun. At this hour, Chinese President Xi Jinping warns against protectionism and power politics as he arrives in Cambodia for the third and final stop of his Southeast Asia tour. The leader has been showing up regional support amid rising trade tensions with the US. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim will hold talks with Myanmar's military chief in Bangkok. On the agenda, a ceasefire extension and earthquake relief. It will be the first meeting between an ASEAN chair and mid-online in years. Campaigning well and truly underway ahead of Singapore general election. The People's Action Party and the Workers' Party are releasing their manifestos. China says it is willing to deepen political mutual trust with Cambodia as Chinese President Xi Jinping visits the country today. It's the last stop of his charm offensive in 24 hours around the world.
Good morning, I'm Oliver Farry, and this is Daybreak. Haiti celebrates 200 years since its independence from France, a bittersweet anniversary marked by continuing gang violence and the memory of crippling reparations imposed by Paris on the Caribbean nation to compensate for the loss of France's slave colony, Saint-Domingue. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni meets Donald Trump in Washington with tariffs expected to be top of the agenda. The EU looks on warily as the far-right Italian leader, one of Trump's more favoured European politicians, becomes the first from the continent to directly broach the looming trade war with the US president. California becomes the first US state to sue the Trump administration over its tariffs. Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom's lawsuit argues that President Donald Trump's use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose tariffs is unlawful. Haiti today celebrates 200 years since it declared independence from France. It's a bittersweet moment as France at the time imposed by force heavy reparations for the loss of its slaves that impoverished the Caribbean nation, which became the first black-governed post-colonial state. 2 centuries on from independence, Haiti is one of the world's poorest countries and is prey to violent gangs who control much of the capital Port-au-Prince. Protesters took to the streets of the capital on Wednesday to demand protection from gang violence. Caroline Baum reports.
Hello, very good morning. At 7 o'clock, coming up on the show today, we hear from the widow facing police investigation after accompanying her husband to Switzerland to die.
Scientists discover the best evidence yet for life on another planet.
Plus, what next after the Supreme Court's ruling on the definition of a woman? Questions for public services and for Labour. It's Thursday, the 17th of April. A woman who's under police investigation after assisting the suicide of her husband, a dignitas in Switzerland, tells Sky News she has no regrets.
It took 4 people to get him on the plane, and he turned and looked at me, and he said, "They can't stop us now, can they, Lou?" And I said, "I don't think they can."
The chemical footprint of gases that are only produced by living organisms are detected on a planet 124 light years away using NASA's $10 billion space telescope. Another night of talks over the Birmingham bin strikes ends with no resolution. And it was a huge night for Arsenal as they beat Real Madrid to reach the Champions League semi-finals. Hello, very good morning. Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shekel 5858. I am Amir Shekel. Have a good life. Bye-bye.